Boundaries, yay! Gosh, I think this is one of my, I don't know if favourite topics is the right word, but definitely frequent. I'm continually gifted with opportunities to set them, and today was no different. I had a little incident which I'm going to talk about because it was an opportunity to set boundaries. It's also an opportunity to question some dubious parenting, but that's a whole other video. I was out with the dogs, and I have 2 rescue dogs, so they can be sensitive, they have issues, and I've managed them well over the time we've had them. We're walking along the street, a child comes along on a scooter going quite quickly, reaches out to grab one of the dogs, and I said, don't do that. She pauses for a split second, gives me a petulant look and says, why? And I said, because they don't like it, and you need to ask if that's okay. She, another petulant look, and wandered off. And I thought, interesting. Clearly someone who's not used to being told no. But I also thought, boundaries, and when we go to set them, we are not necessarily going to be greeted with gratitude from the other parties involved. I certainly wasn't this morning. But I knew it was absolutely the right thing. And the reason is because the particular dog that she went for is very unpredictable. So sometimes he's okay and sometimes he's not. And if he's not, he has the propensity to snap. And if he snapped, and even though she had instigated the situation, and it would have been his fault, and I will not have that, basically. So this is why I put that boundary in quickly and strongly. And sometimes that's what we have to do. So we don't have time necessarily to think about, how is it going to be received? We have to actually just say no, that behaviour is unacceptable, and deal with the fallout from that. So how are your boundaries? How are they? What challenges, what opportunities, what gifts are you getting? What moments in time to set your boundaries? Because as is spoken in A Course in Miracles, sometimes love is saying no. Sometimes putting that boundary in is an act of love. And it was absolutely that way today, because it was a boundary for everybody involved. It was a momentary situation, over in a matter of minutes. But the boundary was for everybody. And this is often what we find when we set a boundary, and we can kind of sit with it and question it and worry about it. But often that boundary is actually not just for ourselves, but for everyone involved. And ultimately we know what's the right thing to do, what's the right step to take. We don't always do it. Sometimes we have time to consider. I think I spoke about a situation recently where I sat with the decision for a year and a half. I was about to say an hour and a half. I was like, no, it was a year and a half before I decided to put the boundary in place. And sometimes, like today, I had to make a decision in the moment. And sometimes when we do make those decisions in the moment, we won't always feel that we're being our best self. But sometimes you just have to kind of bring the axe down. Sorry for the analogy. You just have to put the boundary in place because it's what's needed in the moment. So have a check-in with yourself and see how you're doing with your boundaries, because I do feel they can slip for us. We get into our comfort zones, and then we don't want to rock the boat with other people. We don't, I often find when I up level spiritually, I lose people from my life. They don't want to carry on the ride with me, and that has to be okay for me and for them. So I think knowing that, or sensing it, even if it's unconscious, we can inadvertently shy away from taking that step and setting that boundary. But pretty much always think when we do take that step that we know instinctively, intuitively we need to take, that on the other side of it is the freedom, is the next level, is the better space, better communication, better relationship with self and the rest of the world. So have a look at your boundaries and see how they are. If you need help, get in touch. I work one-to-one with women, helping them to do just that. Find their light in the world, set their boundaries, create better relationships in themselves, and that connection with the divine or source, whatever you want to call that, because that's ultimately the longest relationship, that in your body, that you're going to have. Have a great day. Bye.